Now, is eating meat a necessity for everybody? It is not. But definitely it is a difficulty when you say every Muslim who lives in Japan must not eat meat and live only vegetarian. That's you are imposing too much restrictions on these people. So when we talk about the haja. Some people don't like to eat meat. They don't like to be vegetarian. Especially give him vegetarian food for a couple of days, he'll be bored. He'll be really, يعني, want to destroy his clothes. Cut his cloth apart. He wouldn't like it. So it is, these are tolerated in Sharia. We tolerate people taste, we tolerate people way of doing things, we tolerate people's culture, we tolerate all these are tolerated on individual basis, and more we tolerate them more when it comes to a large number of people, when this applies to a large number of people. These are issues discussed by ancient scholars. This is not a new issue, only in our time. It is being discussed in the past. For instance, example given by several Sharia scholars, even in the past, especially those who discussed the fundamental ideas, like Al-Izz ibn Abd al-Salam, or like Al-Ghazali, or like Al-Shatibi, who discussed the objectives of Sharia and how do we behave within these objectives. The example that some of them gave is, okay, you live in a village, and you know villages were apart one from the other, and people usually rarely go out of their villages. They are born and live and die in the same place. That's normal practice. And you are in a village, and okay, two of the girls in the village are your sisters in nursing. They have nursed with you from your own mother, or nursed with any of your brothers or sisters from your own mother. So they are sisters of yours. And there is 100 girl potential for asking for marriage in the village, but we don't know who are these two who nursed from your mother. Okay, if you want to be purist, so to speak, then you say all these girls are haram to marry. You have to go and marry from another village. Well, I don't go to marry from other village. I live in this village, and I don't know the other village even. And especially in the past, how life was there. So this example is given. Then you select any girl, as long as you don't know who is your sister among them. That creates not life-threatening necessity, because you can even live without marriage at all. Or you can leave your village and go and live in another village and marry from the other village. All these are possible, but that is not normal. That is not what everybody does. Then they say, these great scholars in the past, they say that, okay, then you select any girl that you want to marry and give the offer to their family, and if they accept you, you marry her. Because you don't know who is your sister among all these 100 girls, potential brides. So this is the issue where Muslims who live in Japan, well, yes, some of them may tolerate living vegetarians, but many of them may not. And even on individual basis or on the large number basis, we cannot force them, oh, you have to be vegetarian, everyone, because all this meat is haram here and you cannot. No, eat then from what it is. This is based on the Quran, actually, because the Quran wants always repeatedly to remove the haraj. The haraj is the difficulty, not the life-threatening necessity. Not that you can, what can you tolerate? Yes, sometimes you can tolerate. Very often you can tolerate. But this is something that you hate. It puts restrictions. It puts difficulty for you. It makes you hate the food when you come to eat each time. A vegetarian all the time. Okay, all these then are reasons to relax the rule, but you relax it in as much as needed. This is here with the principle of tolerance. It is based on the Quran that says about haraj, and haraj is not necessity. In repeated in several verses. Today or yesterday, I was reading it, one of these verses in Surah number 9, Surah At-Tawbah. ليس على المريض حرج ولا على الأعرج حرج ولا على and so on so on ولا على أنفسكم. It says أن تأكلوا في بيوتكم أو بيوت أمهاتكم أو من بيوتكم. It says, and it attracted my attention. Why it says أن تأكلوا من بيوتكم and didn't say أن تأكلوا في بيوتكم. I want to go and study it really. I just it kind of struck my mind when I was reading. I think today, either today or yesterday, I was reading this, and it says min buyutikum. So there is no haraj. So removal of haraj is one of the objectives of Sharia. So those people who live in UK or in US, like we have, in my estimation, we are about 13 million Muslims who live in the United States. Most estimations say 7 million. My estimation is 13 million. And for that, then we invest. And you don't tell me, go and invest in Qatar. It's difficult for me. I want to invest in New York. So this is the tolerance then. It is tolerance, and it goes always with the purification. Tolerance with purification, and that is different from compliant. So tolerance, ya Hassan, keep in mind that tolerance is not really necessity. Very different from necessity is removal of haraj. Enough in it also if you don't like to be vegetarian only. That's adequate reason to eat the meat that is slaughtered not according to Sharia. This is in the text of the Quran. In fact, for the meat, it is mentioned itself in the Quran that for eating. And eating refers to the meat, definitely, not to the vegetables or grain. Because vegetables or grain are halal anyway, whether they are planted by unbeliever or by Muslim or by whoever. So this is the idea here is the make life not difficult for a Muslim as individual and as group. Okay.
Yeah, but I have a follow-up question.
Quickly, but we have two other people also. So quickly.
Okay. The first question is, doesn't that make the Sharia arbitrary? That if you just
No, it does not. The answer, no, it does not,
how
because
would
that
you
goes by
determine?
the rules.
No,
That
how would you
goes
determine
by,
the haraj? I mean, you could relax it a lot, and it might just open the doors to everything.
no, it does not. Because relaxation is always as much as needed. And in the final analysis, it deals with your own consciousness. And give you an example here, which is interesting and important. One of the great scholars, now his name slipped from my mind, but I may remember it. I think Adam bin something, his name, yes. Adam bin something, who is the author of one famous book on Amwal. This Adam was at the time of Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Ahmad ibn Hanbal was persecuted by the government because of his opinion. Ahmad ibn Hanbal resisted the opinion of the Mu'tazila who were ruling, and the Khalifa was one of them, Al-Ma'mun, at the time of the Abbasid, the fourth or fifth Khalifa at the Abbasid time is Al-Ma'mun, and he was himself from one of the scholars of Mu'tazila, and he adopted that opinion. Ahmad ibn Hanbal resisted it and always used to say, no, the Quran is the words of God and it is eternal like God, because it's one of the attributes of God. It is not created. The Mu'tazila say the Quran is created by God. God is eternal, but the Quran is created. So he resisted that opinion. This is the opinion Ahmad ibn Hanbal represents all Ahl Sunnah, and he was persecuted, imprisoned, and also physically punished in prison. I think his name Yahya ibn Adam, the other great Sharia scholar who was at this time, he was asked, why didn't you declare also your opinion openly? He told them, I cannot tolerate what Ahmad tolerates. Ahmad can tolerate persecution. I cannot. So people have different ability to accept eating without meat, staying without meat, eating meat for 2 days. Some people may stay for life without that, and some people can only stay for 1 or 2 days, no more than that. So eating meat becomes for them difficulty. No, that does not create arbitrary argument of it. It leaves it, like everything in our Sharia, leaves it in the final analysis to your own conscience. Definitely your own conscience. This is why, for instance, everybody can break fasting in Ramadan. If you break fasting, nobody sees you. This is why the Prophet ﷺ, in a hadith that is Qudsi, narrated from God, that as-sawmu li wa ana ajzi bihi, that fasting is for me, and because you can break fasting without anybody seeing you. It is your own conscience. So if you make fasting for God, God rewards you for it. Because it cannot be, fasting cannot be for people around you, because you can abstain from drinking or eating in presence of other people, but that doesn't mean you are fasting. You may break fast alone, individually, in your house where nobody sees you. So but still, fasting is required, and every one of us, alhamdulillah, almost all of us, I should say, fast for God and do not break our fasting, even when we are in private and alone, so nobody sees us. We don't break our fasting because it's a matter of conscience. Most of our religion is that way, including believing in God itself. Including believing in God is left to our own conscience, is not really an outside thing. La ikraha fi din cannot be by its nature. Religion cannot be by ikrah at all, because it's a matter of conscience, cannot be outside that. So no, that does not make it arbitrary. The rules will remain the rules, and people apply that exception as much as they need, but not beyond that need. Okay.
Okay.
The other question.
Should I? Yeah. The
Well, go
second,
ahead.
the other part is if we allow 30% assets which are non-Sharia compliant, do we need to purify the 30% income also?
You need to purify the amount of return that comes to you as a result of that. So it depends. If that funds is used, say when it is suppose used for inventory, and all the profit comes from the inventory, then yes, it is 30% of that is it. But when it is used for the building, and only 2% of the profit comes from the building, and 98% of the profit comes from the inventory, not from the building. Yes, then it is different. You know, you need to really calculate the return that comes to you, and where does it come from. Now, of course, what is required is that exact calculation. But if you fail to make the exact calculation, I fail to make the exact calculation myself. So I make it on the in a way that I don't fall into any problem. At one time, in fact, I told my partner in agriculture, please give zakah as 20%. Because of these kind of potential mistakes. We don't want to give 5% or 10%. Please give it 20%. And I'll bear all that difference. It's on me. Take it. This 20% on me, not on you. So he was giving really 20%. So just be on the safe side only. When you don't calculate it exactly, add 1, 2, 3% above, just to be on the safe side. Okay, the other questions now. Khalas, Hassan Mahfouz, zero question for you until the rest of this session.
Okay.
Okay, others, please, others, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Jehun, okay.
Assalamu alaikum, Professor.
Salam.
Jehun here. I was actually, I wanted to comment on the issue that you came at the end of your discussion about the self-consciousness, because I just remember that while being in Ukraine for like nearly 1 month, and then the war started, there were very big difficulties with the finding food and everything. I mean, not talking about the halal food, but the food at all, because in general the shops are closed. You cannot find like much stuff to eat and everything. Then we were finding the cans and everything. But then there was a team member with us. He said that, you know, this is the war situation. We cannot find anything. So they had the, you know, the pork and whatever left there, but we didn't, of course, accept that. He said that this is the war situation and we can go for whatever we find. Then I said, you know, the self-consciousness is very important over here. If I don't have any other alternatives, probably we may consider. But if we have the alternatives, whatever is there, then you can go for that. I mean, you don't go directly for using that hajat that, you know, we're in the war, there is no food or something. Look for the alternatives, whatever is available right now at the moment around you. If you can find something, you go for that. But of course, if you are going to die of hunger, then for these cases, there are already, I mean, the opinions for this.
Okay.
Even for the beef, the same company, produces the pork and the beef, and you don't know how they really do that. I mean, in the same machinery or differently or whatever. So I was not risking. I mean, I'm just trying to comment on the issue that you have mentioned already.
Yes,
so
yes, Barakallah fiqh. I tell you what, in America, they are required to clean them, a thorough cleaning, not only in water, but also in materials that purify them. When you use, I mean, when you go to the other kind of meat, you were doing pork, for instance, in a slaughtering house. If you want to go and do beef or lamb, then you have between one and the other, make thorough cleaning. I mean, very thorough cleaning. I think part of it that you cannot do it, you have to leave the machines for 24 hours also until you take the other one. There are legal requirements in America for that. But anyway, yani, it is a matter of conscience, cannot be outside that individual conscience. And you tell the rule, it is not really a rule that applies generally. So need now clearly distinguish between tolerance and compliant. And there is nothing, no distinction between compliant and applied. Sharia compliant is the same as Sharia applied. We don't accept any difference between them. Those who distinguish between them have no really reason and no Sharia support for that distinction. So continue then, yeah, Shah.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So Islamic finance has shown growth in the last 2 decades, and according to the S&P Global Ratings, the Islamic finance portfolio was $2.2 trillion, and its presence is in almost all Muslim majority countries, along with some Muslim minority countries. This is the report which we talked about. In Islamic banking is almost 70% of the total portfolio, and the total Islamic finance portfolio is $2.69 trillion according to IFSB. In the overview, we can see that Islamic finance only represents about 1% of the global financial assets, but with the 11.4% growth in 2019, it was expanding quicker than conventional finance. With COVID-19, that growth is expected to slow down but remain positive. And according to S&P Global Ratings, it believes that the global Islamic finance industry will grow by 10 to 12% in the year 2021-2022. Now, the main questions on Islamic finance, we will discuss these one by one. What is it and what does Islamic finance bring about? What is new in Islamic finance? How to implement it, for whom it is, and why do we need it? What is Islamic finance? To really understand Islamic finance, at first we need to see what financing is, or what finance is. What is the meaning of finance? So in the classical Western definition, finance is the provision of credit or money. In other words, it is the provision of means of payment. So the system that includes the circulation of money, the granting of credit, the making of investments, and the provision of banking facilities. What is Islamic finance? The meaning of financing in the provision of goods, according to Professor Monzer Kahf in Islamic Economics, Science and System, the provision of goods, services, and or means of payment, including cash, while the counterpart comes at a later date or without a counterpart at all. So a finance contract is interpersonal constructed relationship which confers goods, services, and other assets or management against deferred payment or settlement. So constructed, you
Now,
mean the structured arrangements?
okay, let's deal with this definition compared with provision of credit or money. Is this definition better, more comprehensive of finance, or it is not acceptable definition? This is what we need really to discuss, and we need to settle also. I argue that definitely provision of goods and services, provision of assets, as long as the counterpart is either delayed or non-existing, definitely this is finance. Can it be claimed? No, finance is only credit and money. I would say the claim that finance should only be credit and money is a false claim. Logically, it is not a claim that is consistent, even with the use of the word that is used in the same culture and in the same context. In other words, finance that is given by the seller itself. When you buy a refrigerator on installment from the store, and there is no bank at all and no banking system whatever related to this, is that financing or it is not? Definitely it is financing. So you got the refrigerator and you pay over 10 months that are in the future. So definitely this is financing. Provision of goods then and services is definitely financing as much as provision of credit or money is financing. And this is here definitely then we are talking about a better definition than the definition that is adopted in the conventional theory. We need to put something that clearly here also, that human mind remains a human mind, and it is the creation of God. So human mind, regardless of the faith, may come with ideas that are correct. And we need to remember that cultures and civilization build on each other. So to claim that, oh, if we are Islamic, then we should quit everything that is in economics and talk about Islamic economics anew. No, it is not anew, and it cannot be anew. Definitely, we talk about Islamic economics building on the fruits that come from the minds of whoever thought about it before us, and we add to that. We improve on that. So this is, in my opinion, we are talking about finance, and this is an improvement of finance, of the concept of finance. By the way, I wanted to mention this at the beginning, but I forgot. The promised book that I mentioned about it several times to you guys has come in publication now. I got my copy. The authors, the other 10 colleagues of yours, none of them until now has completed his PhD, so they are still PhD candidates. They have all of them completed their comprehensive exam, and they are in the phase of working on the thesis. They are being sent each one his or her own copy by our library, and the book will be available for sale, I think either Monday or Tuesday, in the bookstore here near the cafeteria in the library. So the book has come, and alhamdulillah, yani we are talking about proposing a new theory of finance, a theory of finance that relates finance to the real market, instead of a theory that makes finance split and away and taking its own direction, sometimes very often away from the real market. So this is the new theory of finance that we are offering, and the book came, alhamdulillah. So definitely here we are talking about a better definition. In other words, we are going to tell everybody that your definition is incomplete, needs to be improved, and you need to come to this definition of finance better than that. Okay, continue, please.
So, the need for financing. The first point is that the need for financing arises because of the natural differences in people's resource endowments. For instance, the fuqaha argue that mudaraba is needed because neither everyone who owns money has trading skills, nor everyone who has skills, also who is skillful in trading, possesses money. So this is the first point. And the second point is the human desire to make one's wealth grow. And the third point is for the need for finance is financing the unforeseen circumstances. What is the meaning of Islamic finance? As per the Corporate Institute, Islamic finance is a type of financing activities that must comply with Sharia, Islamic law. The concept can also refer to the investment that are permissible under Sharia.
Okay, do you guys like this definition? I personally don't. Okay, I mean, really, you didn't tell us here about finance. When you tell me it's comply with Sharia. How would I know what is comply with Sharia? And I have to go and search for all Sharia to know what it is? Why not? It is finance that goes through sale, lease, and sharing, and it is finance that abides by the rules of the moral rules of financing. And that is plenty of definition. So to say, oh, that must comply with Sharia, or that goes about what is permissible in Sharia, that means you are referring me to a thing that is too wide to know. It is not an easy thing to understand even. So simplify it for me. Just tell me it is ABCD, that's what it is. And I think that is a lot better definition to say a finance that abides by 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. And you could have made it, and please make it in the correction, in the revision, before you send it to your colleagues. Make that in the criticize this definition and make it a definition that goes through based on property ownership, and goes through sale, lease, or sharing, and abides by the moral rules that are XYZ. Anything that is harmful is away. And that's all, really. There is nothing beyond that.
Yeah, it's coming in the next slide, sir.
Okay, fine. We have a question. Go ahead, the one who is asking, please. Whoever raises.
I want to add something. A concept can refer to a real activity that make an increment.
It's coming in the next slide.
Added value. Yeah, okay, let's see what is coming.
So Islamic finance theory, we have to see it from the sources of Sharia. So in the Hadith in Ibn Majah, it has been mentioned that 3 things have blessings: sale on credit, muqarada, which is mudaraba, and mixing wheat with barley for any food at home, not for sale. Reported by Ibn Majah, chapter on Tijara. And in another hadith reported in Ibn Majah, that the night I was taken up to heaven, I saw written on the heaven's gate, charity is multiplied 10 times and a loan is multiplied 18 times. I said, O Jibril, why is a loan better than charity? He said, because a beggar may ask while he has will, and a borrower would not ask for a loan except out of need. At the beginning, it was thought that Islamic finance is based on sharing risk. This approach was not at ease with Murabaha and Ijara, but later we realized that it is in fact asset-based, not risk-based. Fuqaha distinguish between profit, wage, rent, and ghalla. They attributed profits to either of 3 reasons: ownership of a property, work, and daman, responsibility or guarantee, kafala. But as sir you mentioned in the first lecture also, daman has this issue that daman is not sufficient to earn any return.
Yes, and daman definitely is not a reason for earning return. Rather, daman, when it is related to work or to work or property, then it becomes associated with them like an additional condition in them and not separate from them. Okay.
So the meaning of Islamic finance, according to Professor Monzer Kahf and Khan in Principle of Islamic Finance, they said that it was presented in 1991. So a general framework to interpret Islamic modes of financing. The premises of his attempt is the considerations regarding characteristics of ownership and ways of its integration with management. Ownership has two inherently interrelated characteristics. The first one is ownership rights entitle the owner to all earnings, returns, increments, etc., which accrue to the owned asset regardless of the process of their accrual. For example, growth may either be due to natural reasons, the transformation of assets, or exchange. And the second is that simultaneously ownership makes the owner the sole bearer of all responsibilities and risks regarding the property. These risks include quantitative and or qualitative property loss caused by natural factors, exchange, or transformation.
Sorry, I didn't understand this slide. Can you explain, please, some more?
Okay, I will. It is, when you talk about ownership based, the ownership has two characteristics. Any ownership, that if you own a thing, you are entitled to its return, to any increment that is generated in this thing, whether by action of other people, by your action, or without any action, by changes in economic conditions or in natural conditions, by the rain coming on the ground and then grass is comes up from the dirt, from the ground, and you own the grass without you making any effort. So this is the issue. Ownership, part of it is that, one aspect of it, one facet of it is entitlement right. You are entitled to any increment that is generated by or in this thing that you own. The second characteristic is that if any loss happens in it, then you are the bearer of that loss. In other words, ownership entitles you to any increment that is created in or by this ownership, this asset that you own, this property, and at the same time, you bear any loss that may happen to it, regardless from the source of the loss. Could be physical, by the asset is breakable and falls down and break, or could be caused by market conditions, demand and supply. You bought it for 10 and now you cannot sell it for more than 8, so you made a loss. Or could be for even changes of natural circumstances, like an apple and it got rotten. To all these, the bearing this risk, which we will call ownership risk, and entitlement to earning, these are characteristics from ownership, and these characteristics on whose basis is Islamic finance based. So Islamic finance is a finance through ownership, and by that you bear the ownership risk, and you also you are entitled to the return. Now you make different kind of arrangement, which is fine. You may give it on mudaraba basis, and then you share that entitlement right with the other guy by virtue of the agreement, or you use it yourself or anything else. You can use it for sale, and when you sell it, the responsibility and the risk transfers to the owner upon delivery of that item, and until delivery you are still responsible, and once you deliver it, خلاص, the new owner bears that liability. Now this means that we are not talking about Islamic finance being risk taking. Is not risk taking, it is rather ownership based, and not the risk that entitles you to the profit, rather the ownership is what entitles you to the increment, to own the increment, to get the increment and being a return that belongs to you. Now, not even ownership risk, let alone market risk or risk sharing, all this kind of talk. It is definitely risk sharing. Notice it doesn't appear at all. There is no concept of risk sharing in reality in Islamic finance, except in the mind of some. And I hope you are completely converted by now. Yeah, Hassan Mahfouz, you wrote to me risk sharing as the first thing in Islamic finance. Gosh, and you were talking about in your paper, you want to talk about Islamic banks, actually what they have and what is their size in the world. And if you talk about Islamic banks don't make risk sharing, don't take risk sharing. They don't share with anybody at all. Risk 90% or 60% at least of their activities are murabaha, property based, and 38% of it also is ijara, property based. 2% of it is musharaka, but it's loaded with many conditions that really makes it not really musharaka, makes it a kind of sale, and they call it musharaka with these conditions. Many Sharia scholars objected to it, but even there are still banks that give sometimes exceptionally some musharaka, but very limited compared with murabaha and ijara. So you should take murabaha first, and then or sale financing, property-based sale financing, property-based ijara financing, and then the smallest amount is property-based sharing financing. Okay? So clear now?
Yeah, very clear now. Yes.
Hey, barakallah feek. Okay, go ahead. Continue, please.
Then Islamic finance characteristics. The first one is interest-free finance. The prohibition of interest is same prohibition of riba. The most famous rule in Islamic finance is the ban on interest. In economic terms, this means lenders and borrowers are forbidden from charging or paying interest or riba.
Now,
the
I don't agree with this expression, yeah, Shah. I think, yani, you are still, I know you are converted, but you need to convert your mouth also, not only your mind, okay? You need really to put things in the appropriate perspective. So the most important thing of Islamic finance definitely is not the prohibition, the ban on interest. It is rather that the instruments of finance, the channels of finance are sale, lease, and sharing. And by that, when you take, this is the most important thing, by that, we didn't mention interest in it. We didn't mention lending. So lending is excluded for increment. So the most famous, the most important rule is Islamic finance goes through channels of sale, lease, or sharing. It is not the ban on interest. Definitely. Let Zamir Iqbal says that. We don't say that.
Okay.
Okay. Zamir Iqbal says that. I told him, how come you make the negative thing most important? Focus. He said, this is the focus of Islamic finance. How come you make a negative thing being a focus? It cannot. Then what? You are not telling me what it is. Okay, so leave it to him. He was apologetic, as a matter of fact. When I told him that, he was stunned by that statement, and well, really, he was apologetic. Yani, we were standing looking at the Kaaba from the window of a balcony in the building in front of it at that time when I mentioned that to him. Okay, Tayyip, go ahead.
Okay, so the second point is participatory finance. Because interest is prohibited, suppliers of funds become owner instead of creditors. They may sell on credit, lease, or the providers of financial capital and the entrepreneur share business risk in return for shares of the profits.
Okay. So please make these corrections when you revise it. Okay. Continue, please.
Ethical finance, Islamic finance is, this is also one of the important characteristics. Islamic finance is rooted in Islamic ethics, but their ideas and means are not exclusive to Islam. The principles of Islamic finance emphasize market-based sale, lease, or risk sharing of financing that promotes assets and enterprise, deploys finance in the services of the real economy, and facilitates the redistribution of wealth and opportunity. Islamic finance must also observe moral standards of being truthful and clean of misinformation, cheating, or any doubt or ambiguity of its outcome. Religious finance, one of the characteristics, it can be part of it, but I made it separately. Only those business activities that do not violate the ethics of Sharia qualify for investment. For example, any investment in business dealing with alcohol, gambling, and casino would be prohibited.
Okay, but notice here, leave it here. Islamic ethics are scientifically based. Yani we should keep that always in mind, and I really like you to add that sentence or the small paragraph on it, that Islamic ethics are scientifically based, and we do not accept claims or observations until they become scientific fact. This is one. And part of the scientific fact, accepting revelation as a source of knowledge. So we do accept revelation as a source of knowledge because we know that revelation is the most accurate knowledge, not the way people understand the revelation, but the revelation itself. When it is clear cut, definitely it is the most the scientific thing. Okay? This is, please add that. Now, being religious, yes, it is religious finance in a sense, but not in the Western sense, because in the West, religion means theology, means you are part of a hierarchy. Well, our religion is a faith in the heart, and it's not really part of any hierarchy. It doesn't have any hierarchy. It doesn't have any the human structure. So we take revelation as coming from God, and that revelation, we don't take the opinionated interpretation of it. See the point? The opinionated interpretation of it remains opinionated. You may take it, I may take another opinion on it. That is okay. But when the clear-cut issues in the revelation, this becomes common only. And any opinionated interpretation of it is not that common then. So when we say religious, it simply happened that over the last half a century, it was offered by Muslims, and it took the name of being Islamic finance. Those who don't like it, it's really their problem, and it should remain their problem. They are prejudiced. We are not prejudiced because we don't offer our religion as a religion that everybody should accept by force or by way. We only offer our religion as the truth, and look at it. If you take it, take it. If you don't take it, فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Yani this is clear in more than one verse in the Quran. فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. It so happened that we offered it, and it took the name Islamic finance. We are not going to quit that name. And we are not going to eliminate it to please someone who is sensitive to that name. That sensitivity to the name should not exist there, and that is only a prejudice, not really something that is scientific. It so happened that it came from Islam, and it is offered by Muslim scholars in our age. So it is called Islamic finance, and we are not going to change the name to please someone who is prejudiced. See, this is the meaning of being religious finance, not really religious in the sense of being theological, that we are going to ask the Mufti about it. No, we are not going to ask the Mufti about it. And by the way, one of the Muftis of the Ottomans at one time said, anyone who says these tricks like tawarruq and so on, anyone who says haram becomes kafir. So he was he was not really a knowledgeable mufti, and he was wrong. And we don't accept his statement, be it a mufti or not. It's not, so we don't abide. Our religion is based on science. So we accepted on that scientific basis and based on real clear-cut knowledge. Why am I Muslim? Not because my father was Muslim, really, because I believe strongly that this Quran that came to us is exactly the same revelation that came through the angel to Muhammad, and that was recorded then and recorded throughout history, verbally and in writing, both, until it reached me. So I consider myself in a position like Abu Bakr when he was told that, well, you look at your friend, what he's saying now. He said that he went to heaven last night, and all the way up to Jerusalem, Al-Qudus, and then to heaven, and came back within a night. So he told him, if he really said that, I believe him, because I know he tells me about the angel coming to him with the verses from God, and I accepted it because I noticed that is correct, and that cannot be from his own, and can only be from God. And then I accepted it. So I accept it now after 400 years, like Abu Bakr accepted it at that time. It is not at all because my father was Muslim. It is because I believe, I realized that this is really the truth. So in that sense, we hang up and we hang on to the word Islamic finance. We are not going to change it to please some prejudiced people. Okay? Start with Sami. Now tell me, Sami, what do you want to say?
I want to say about morals and ethics that they existed before Islam and related to all humanity. And the evidence of this that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. So the ethics was before Islam, and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam complete it, just complete it.
Yes, that is correct, yes, Sami, and that's beautiful from you. And let me also add to it, since you mentioned it, the verse itself about Khamr and Maysir. It says, فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. Whom was this verse addressed to? Who are the listeners? To whom? When it came revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, he told it to whom? To people who know what is the meaning of Ithmun Kabir, and what is the meaning of some benefits to some people. So this is clearly, they know that this is a moral issue. So and they know these moralities also before that. Yes, thank you. Any other question? Any other hand, or only Sami? Go ahead, continue then, Monsieur Shah.
Okay, sir.
And you are going to revise these all according to our discussion. Okay?
Okay,
You
sir.
are going to revise these according to this discussion and send it to me and to your colleagues.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, inshallah.
Okay.
What does Islamic finance brings about? Taking the Islamic principle from commercial laws and implementing them in the modern life, working to make new or alternative competitive products suitable for objectives complying with the Sharia rules.
Okay, now the first statement, no, leave it. The first statement kind of your mouth betrayed you a little. You see here, taking the Islamic principles from commercial laws, not Islamic principles, really, the finance principles from commercial law and implement them in the modern life. Aren't commercial laws already implemented in modern life? So it's not modern life that we are talking about. It is rather in the finance sector. So the original statement, taking the finance principles from commercial laws and putting them as the core or the heart of finance activities or finance sector or finance institutions. So this is not the modern life. It is the finance we are talking about. So, I mean, the idea is correct, but your mouth betrayed you a little. It's not Islamic principles, rather finance principles, and from commercial laws and implanting them into the heart of the finance sector or the financial institutions so that they can use only these and nothing else. Okay?
With government supporting it.
No, government has nothing to do with it. Where government you got government from? Leave the government to MBS. We are not talking about governments. Or to your Abbas, what's his name? Mahmoud Abbas.
But Professor, in your books and articles, you say that Islamic economics assumes a legal, political, and ideological framework.
That's Islamic economic system, not
Yes.
Islamic economics. I repeatedly say Islamic economics has two branches. The study of the human behavior without being affected by some historical Western ideas that hate religion. Human behavior. For instance, human behavior. Don't human beings give to charity? So the distribution of income between consumption and saving is a wrong distribution. In fact, it is a distribution between consumption, charity, and saving. And this is a better understanding of the human behavior. So this is, we talk about human being at large. But when we talk about Islamic economic system, always we assume, yes, the Sharia is being the law in that society. And the Islamic fundamentals are understood and adopted by many people.
Yeah, but wouldn't that apply to Islamic finance also? You don't need the framework?
When it is for but we apply Islamic finance now, don't we apply it without applying Sharia? And now we have many Islamic finance institutions, and we have many companies that are non-banking companies that also abide by Sharia. Textile companies, there are textile companies that abide by Sharia. Yani, why not? So it is a matter of human behavior. Of course, when you have a total system, yes, that will be more conducive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. طيب, continue, Shah.
What is new in Islamic finance? The innovation of Islamic finance is simple and very innocent but far-reaching. Get real-life contracts from commercial laws and plug them in the heart of banking and financial intermediation.
Yeah, there's
make them
a difference between heart and hurt. Okay.
hurt. Yeah,
What is the difference between hurt and heart?
art, ART. What do you mean?
The word here is heart, not hurt. Hurt means damage.
That is HURT.
Hurt.
Sir.
That's pronounced hurt.
Okay, I pronounced wrongly, maybe. Okay.
Okay, yes. So this here is
Hurt.
heart, as if there is
Qalb.
no E at all.
Yeah.
I mean, consider there is no E. This is the bad thing about English language. You see, if we all learn Arabic, we wouldn't fall into these kind of mistakes.
So I mean qalb, get real life contracts from the commercial laws.
Okay, heart is qalb, yes, but it is pronounced, it is said heart, not hurt.
Heart. Okay.
Heart, as if there is no E at all. Heart, H-A-R.
Heart.
Okay, heart.
Of
Continue, please.
Okay, of banking and financial intermediation, make them the backbone of the finance sector.
Okay, good.
What are Islamic finance contracts? Your definition of Islamic finance contract is that it is interpersonal constructed relationship which confers goods, services, and other assets or management against deferred payments or settlements. And effects of Islamic finance contracts are their transfer of ownership or of management while keeping ownership, creates a debt or requires future settlements. Whenever debt is created, collateral guarantees are warranted.
Okay, yeah, Hassan Mahfouz. I want you to please, where is Mateen? Is Mateen with us here?
Yes, Professor, I'm here.
You are here. Okay, then Hassan Mahfouz and Mateen. Look at this point here. In this definition, Shah wanted us to keep in our mind the way that we use the Islamic finance contract, whether on resource mobilization or on resource utilization. On resource utilization, then the contract confers goods, services, or assets, whereas when we talk about resource mobilization, then we confer only management and keep ownership. So as a Rabbul Mal in Mudaraba, in investment deposits, or in Rabbul Mal in a shareholding company, I confer the management only to the management or to the Islamic bank as a depositor, investment depositor, and I keep the ownership. And by virtue of this ownership, I earn my share of the profit. So here, the attempt here is to give both a definition that covers both ways. In an earlier definition, the issue of management or retaining ownership was not mentioned. And again, settlement, because management retaining ownership requires settlement at some period of time, at some point of time in the future. So this is here an attempt to make the contract, the definition comprehensive of whether you use it in resource mobilization or in resource utilization. So I really think that this is a better definition in that sense, but need to be understood in that context. Okay? Continue, please, Shah.
Finance can only be channeled through sale, lease, and sharing. Sale by deferred payment sale, which can be salam, istisna, and lease can be through ijara, and the sharing are basically on musharaka, mudaraba, and
And of course, ijara can be ijara muntahiya bitamlik also, another form of ijara which ends with ownership. Okay? Continue, please.
The innovative message, let's let's work on existing contracts and commercial laws, plug the real life contracts into the heart of financial institutions. Do not work on loan contracts, remove fictitious and speculative practices from the heart of financial institutions, remove all relationships that do not create added value. That is simple but far-reaching.
Well, by the way, guys, even in class, when we are in person, I don't mind get your coffee, get your tea, and be in the class with your cup of coffee or tea. That is okay, for everybody. Okay, not only because now everybody is in his own place. Okay, continue, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor.
Axiomatic principles of Islamic finance. These three types of contracts translate into four axiomatic principles. The first one is earning by owning. The ownership is essential because owning the thing grants the rights for the increment that results from the assets. Financial assets are mere representation. And the third and most important is realism, that a thing should have a natural process of growth, either, for example, livestock, plants, trees, etc. And for example, the loan, which does not have a natural process of growth, the sale of debt, it does not generate added wealth by changing the creditor or the debtor. And the fourth one is the moral commitment not to harm society or individuals or environment or finance that causes harm to any of them, and apply science criteria for that. Realism.
Shafat, the idea of natural process of growth, I'm not sure I understand this definition.
Go back
I think
to it.
Professor discussed it in the first class also, that anything which is providing any increment. Professor?
Yes, a loan definitely does not generate increment, does not create increment, does not create added value. Whereas goods and services, when they transfer hand, definitely they transfer hand with creation of added value, because otherwise the contract wouldn't be done unless it creates added value. So this is the idea of it. See here, it's exactly like similar to what is said, which this always comes to the mind of more of a simplifying person, that if there is time value of the goods, then we buy goods with money, there must be time value of money. So this jump from time value of goods to time value of money, which was done by economists in the 1930s, and they created time value of money because of that, that you delay your consumption, and that added value, then by that you get added value of money. This analogy is incomplete because money itself does not create that. Same thing when you talk about loan. The loan contract does not create added value because there is nothing that creates an added benefit to any human being, directly or indirectly. Whereas what happens after it, that may create added value. In other words, the borrower will take the money and use it by any contract that may, if he use it for any purchase, then that creates added value. If he uses it for even purchase of a service or asset or goods, consumable or non-consumable, that action created added value. But we cannot transmit this added value to the loan. Exactly. Look at the incomplete analogy here and there. It is incomplete analogy to say because with money we buy goods and goods have added value, then money has also added value. Time value of money creates a value across time. It's exactly the same thing. Loan as a relationship does not create added value. It only transfers ownership. Whereas the action that comes after it by the borrower, that may create added value, but then the lender has nothing to do with this added value that is created, because it is created within the property that is owned by the borrower, not by the lender. The property that becomes owned by the lender is only a debt, and the debt does not create added value. So this is the point of it, and where people shouldn't make really that jump from one thing to another. Okay?
Okay.
I want to ask something, Prof.
Tfaddal, go
Is
ahead.
the meaning of natural process of growth
It's
same
natural
to
process.
created added value?
Well, I mean, what is the natural process of growth? Yes, definitely added value, creating growth. And you can even, Shah likes to talk too much. Anyway, you can even remove the word a natural process of growth. May not have a growth, or may not generate growth. Natural process of growth, yani, this is part of the fantasies of Shah, which we always tolerate and accept. It's nothing that need to be objected to. Okay. Yalla, continue, Shah. It's okay.
Okay, sir. Coming to the this beautiful concept of realism. So, according to the Nobel laureate Joseph Stiglitz, in 2009, he points out that finance is a mean for economic growth and prosperity, but when debt and financial commitments grow beyond the real economy, finance becomes an end rather than a means. So finance had become an end in itself rather than a means to an end. He stated this. And then if we see the doctrine of realism by Professor Monzer Kahf, in 2012, he stated that according to the Islamic law or Sharia, realism means that the ruling of the Sharia, the Islamic law, always adhere to things as they exist in the real world, in their actual realistic forms as they occur in real life. He pointed out that the Quran was revealed in accordance with the conditions, situations, and events that transpired in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Muslim society over the course of the Quran's 23 years of revelation. In fact, some Quranic verses have been revealed as applies and verdicts in response to the situation and circumstances. There are numerous examples, and the Quran describe it in the following words, and they do not come to you with a counter argument, only the truth and the best explanation. In his various writings, like Professor argues that the principle of realism requires all Islamic finance contracts to be founded on genuine real transactions rather than virtual, supposed, or deemed transactions. He further claims that the Sharia forbids making any assumptions regarding future events, claiming that Sharia judgments are not based on assumptions and that assumptions have no impact on Sharia rulings. The Sharia solely considers facts in real life occurrences as they occur, and the origins of the idea of realism can be found in Sharia sources, the Quran and Sunnah. Hakim asked the Prophet, peace be upon him, Messenger of Allah, a man comes to me and wants me to sell him something which is not in my possession, should I buy it for him from the market? And the Prophet replied that do not sell what you do not possess. It is in Sunan Abi Dawud, number 3503. Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu reported Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as saying, if Allah does not fructify them, then what is permissible for one of you to take the wealth of his brother? This is narrated in Sahih Muslim. So it was narrated from Ibn Umar that the Prophet, peace be upon him, forbade selling the offspring of a pregnant animal. Ini habal al-habala. This is in Sunan Nisai. This is what the concept of realism is. Professor, if you want to add something.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Brother Shah, I would like to ask you something. It's realism. Today, I think we wanted to apply realism, the application of contemporary finance in today's world. So can we give examples, real life examples about how realism is fueled today's world, particularly in contemporary finance? Can we give examples?
Yeah, if we see the Islamic finance, so we are selling the real assets. We are not dealing with the things which has no existence. For example, if you are coming, you are as a customer coming to Islamic banks and asking for something, so they are not selling to you something which they don't own. Like we talked about the ownership. So if we own something and which has possession, proper possession and existence, then we are selling it to you. So that is based on real thing. That is not.
Yes, we may add to that also. We may add to that tawarruq, for instance, is a violation of realism, because you want cash and you buy a car. You don't want a car. This buy and selling of the car is fake. Is only you want it only as a vehicle to get the cash and get the cash directly. Why do you go through this vehicle? That vehicle does not really help. So this is part of the fakeness that create fake objective, and it is not, you want the car, not for the car. Another thing also, these assets that are really not, that do not have real existence, like futures. Futures buy in the future market wheat for wheat. An example which was given by Financial Times at one time, a friend of mine sent me that clip from the Financial Times. He said, oh, this is what you always say. Okay, that clip, it says literally that in the goods market, future market, brokers, suppose they are all around a table, and suppose there is a ton of wheat on the table. They trade wheat day and from 9 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, and they shout prices and sell and buy, hundreds of sales, thousands rather, or sometimes hundreds of thousands of sale are done, and there is no change at all of the ton, the 1 ton of the grain that is on the table. The 1 ton on the grain remains as it is. But the endowment that people came in the morning with have changed only between themselves. So they really did not make trade on wheat. That what they made is trade between themselves. Some of them ended up at the end of the day with less endowment than they came in the morning, and some of them came at the end of the day with more endowment that they started with in the morning. But in the reality, there is no change. So nothing changed in the real world. Not a single more kilo of wheat produced, or even went to some other place from that table. It is still the 1 ton wheat are still on the table. Nothing has changed. So this is lack of realism. So we have a lot of lack of realism. Sorry to say
Professor,
also
how
Bitcoin
about,
trading.
yeah, how about Forex brokerage famous?
Forex brokerage, Forex platform on the internet, all of them are just lack realism, lack
Exactly.
the principle.
all the derivatives in many things.
Yes, options also. See about options. It is so beautiful, the decision of the OIC Fiqh Academy. They recognize that options are financial rights. But then they continue. But they do not fit in Sharia to be purchased, held, or rather owned, to be purchased, owned, sold, or traded. So you cannot do all these 4 things of it. You don't buy it, you don't hold it, you don't sell it, you don't trade it. They are not suitable. They are not real assets that are realized as assets. They are created for speculation. They are not really created to be owned. Okay, so this is the idea of options, that this is why the Sharia and OIC Fiqh Academy extremely beautifully, in my opinion, ruled that they are for Islamic finance, they are simply nothing. They don't mean anything for Islamic finance because they lack that realism objective. Is it permissible to have an option to buy, and you intend really to buy a quantity? It is permissible, as a matter of fact. And it is permissible when it is only attached to a reality. For instance, I buy a lot of land and the seller has an adjacent lot, and I buy with the land that I buy with it. There is a condition that I have a right within 6 months, for instance, to buy the adjacent lot at a given price. This is permissible. So the idea of option itself as a pure idea is permissible. But when it becomes artificial, then this is where the OIC Fiqh Academy objected to it. Otherwise, there is a chapter in all fiqh books, in fiqh al-mu'amalat, a chapter that talks about options, not options. In fact, we called it, to make the distinction in Arabic, OIC Fiqh Academy translated option as ikhtiyarat, whereas the chapter in fiqh is called Faslu al-Khiyarat. And there is a PhD dissertation by the late what's his name, Abu Ghudda, the late Abd al-Sattar Abu Ghudda, rahimahullah. His PhD dissertation was about the theory of khiyarat in Sharia. So there are khiyarat, but these are very different. They are related always to reality, not separated from reality. Once you separated from reality, they are then traded on their own. And that is not permissible. That is why the Fiqh Academy extremely beautifully and rightly objected to them. So for us in Islamic finance, part of the application of reality, that options do not exist. Continue, please.
Okay, sir. So the difference between conventional and Islamic finance, if we see the conventional banks, they are dealing with money, they are selling money and then taking money on money. That is basically interest. But if we see Islamic banks, they are selling the goods or services and then taking charges or taking profit on that. asset. Interest is an increase in debt, while return in Islamic financing is an increase in something of a growing nature, which we have discussed. The second point is in an interest-based relationship.
We call it an increase in added value, not something of a growing nature. An increase, I mean, is an added value in an item that generate added value, growing.
Okay.
In a growing item, or in something that creates added value, or okay, leave it, is an increase in something that creates added value.
Value.
Okay,
Okay.
so make that correction, please. Continue now.
In an interest-based relationship, the creditor does not guarantee or bear anything from the loss, while in Islamic finance, he guarantees and bears the risk of ownership. In an interest-based system, the increase is assumptive and arbitrary, while in Islamic finance, it is real. In the interest-based system, financing is based on the ability to repay regardless of the
Now,
reason.
I like to make a little comment on that one, but please leave that one, the previous one. Whereas the increment in Islamic finance is real, no, not. Okay, here, number 3. Okay. يعني always comes to the mind, and this is especially for you, ya Hassan. I want to completely convert you, يعني to add to it, nail it down. Okay. One may say, well, what is the rate of profit other than taken from the interest? Really, here what Islamic banks charge as a profit on murabaha is exactly the interest rate that is charged by in the conventional bank. No, it is not. It is taken from it, yes, but take this case and see how it comes. There was a time when there were no banks at all. And at that time, in fact, there were financing. You cannot claim that there was no financing. If I wanted 500 years ago, I wanted to buy furniture for my house, I go to the furniture seller place, or the merchant who sells it, and tell him, okay, he will tell me immediately, if you want them cash, the cash price is 1,000, and if you want to pay after 6 months, then it is 1,100. So there was financing. It happened that a conventional bank comes, and where did it take this rate of interest? It took it from this finance rate that exists in its society. And then when a man, instead of going take finance from the merchant directly, goes to the bank and take $1,000 finance, and take it, pay the $1,000 to the merchant, and pays to the bank would ask him, for giving him $1,000, I will charge you 100 if you pay me 6 months from now. The same social rate of financing that existed in that society. Conventional banks came, and then an Islamic bank came, and now we have a financial sector, a financial market. And so the natural thing is that the Islamic bank will pick up its rate of profit from the rate that is prevailing in the financial market at that time. So they take it. If I am an Islamic bank and Hassan Mahfouz comes to me for financing, say, of his furniture at home, I will tell him, fine, go ask our neighbor, the conventional bank, what's the rate of interest? And come here, and I will charge you a profit on selling you these furnitures at the same rate of that, exactly, but this is profit. Now, the answer, my answer, suppose 1,500 years ago, or rather 500 years ago, an Islamic bank was the first to come, not a conventional bank. What would the Islamic bank charge as its rate of profit on murabaha? It will be the same rate that is prevailing in the finance in that society. So it will charge exactly similar to what the merchants charges. And then many Islamic banks go on and they create a finance sector. Then 500 years later, a conventional bank comes and it is established. What is the interest rate that the conventional bank is going to charge its customers as interest? Definitely, it will pick it up from the rate of profit that is charged on murabaha by the Islamic banks. So the conventional banker would tell its customer, go ask the Islamic bank what is the murabaha profit rate, and I will charge you the same rate. This is natural because of the market. The structure of the market is such. So if we took now the rate from the interest rate, that does not mean we are not real. No, we are real. We are creating added value in this item. We give it to you now at a price of 1,100 instead of or knowing that the cash price is only 1,000. So it is real. We are still real, even though we take the rate of interest, we copy it from the other guys now. But this is only a historical issue because we are in the same market. That doesn't mean we are not real. We are real and they are not, because they charge it as increment of a debt and the debt does not create that increment. Okay, continue now, please. Number 4.
Professor, I have a question. That this assumption of this concept of assumptive and real profit, does it make difference in the accounting of the Islamic banks, the accrual accounting?
Of course, it makes a difference in the accounting, because in the accounting it is called profit. It's not called interest, and it is called, we've sold a commodity. We did not give a loan, and we have receivables that are debtor to us as a result of selling them commodities. And of course, these receivables cannot be rechanneled, sold to somebody else again, because they are debt and we are stuck with these debts until we collect them. So it makes a hell of difference in the accounting system. Yes, of course, because of the nature of the transaction completely is different. So it is, it makes not a difference, but a hell of difference in the accounting system. Yes. And of course, it makes also a difference in the profit distribution, where we distribute part of that profit to the depositors who still keep ownership and assign to us the management. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
The fourth point is, in the interest-based system, financing is based on the ability to repay regardless of the reason for borrowing, while in Islamic financing must be through goods and services. Either the main goal is production or consumption. Point number 5 is interest-based financing allows trading and selling debts between banks, while Islamic financing forbids selling debts because it does not create any added value. It is a type of usury. Then we will go to the implication of the axiomatic principles.
How many slides do you still have?
Maybe 5 or 6. This is the last.
Okay. We have also the summary of the paper. Whose paper is today to be presented?
Mine, Prof. Hassan Abbas.
Hassan Abbas. Okay. Now, do you like to take a break now and come back after 15 minutes?
I think I can finish this in 5 to 6 minutes.
Okay. I mean, whatever the majority likes. Do you like a break now, or finish this, then take a break and come to the presentation of Hassan Abbas?
No, I think we can take a break.
Whether we should continue, please continue.
Okay, continue then. Fahad. Shah Fahad, please continue.
Sir.
يعني Shah Fahad, find yourself better name than Fahad. يعني Make it lion if you want, or like the Assad of Damascus, this Bashar al-Assad, or make it leopard, make it some other. Why do you go for animals, guys? Go for names like Monzer. Okay, Monzer is not an animal name. Is a characteristic of a human being that warner can warn people. Okay.
Okay.
Or Hassan, may I say Hassan is beautiful. But Abbas is not, you know. I mean, Abbas is only frowner.
Yes.
Frowning. Why do you frown? Yani Muhammad is a beautiful name. See, they're always praised.
Yusuf is a beautiful name.
Huh?
Yeah, I named my son Muhammad.
Yusuf, yes, Yusuf. But Yusuf, not really a beautiful. The meaning of it is sorrow. It's sorrow. And maybe because of that sorrow that accompanied his life, that his father already named him as Yusuf. Yusuf means sorrow. And
Yeah,
Sami is a beautiful name for
even Munzer is a beautiful name.
Shah, what?
Even Munzer is a beautiful name.
Yes, Munzer is a beautiful name. Yes. And it's one of the names of the Prophet Muhammad mentioned in the Quran. You are only a Mundir. Innama anta Mundir.
This is my Yusuf. This is my Yusuf. This is.
I named my son Muhammad, so friends can call me Abu Muhammad.
Yeah, that's fine. Then Abu Muhammad. We eliminate Fahad. Okay. Yalla, Abu Muhammad. Continue, please.
Okay, sir.
We decided to continue. Go ahead for 5 minutes.
Implication of axiomatic principles. The first one is exclude objects that do not produce real added wealth. For example, debts, virtual assets, etc. Point number 2 is exclude transactions that do not produce real added wealth. For example, zero-sum transactions, gambling, speculative contracts, pure cash activities where goods are not intended, etc. Plug in an intrinsic moral screen.
By the way, I believe and I argue that all speculation is haram. So even when you buy shares, buy and sell on speculative concept, only looking for the price quickly. And I wouldn't go for that. And I don't do it myself also. The speculation on tomato and potato is also haram. So speculation, in my opinion, is haram, is abuse of the market.
Yes.
Okay, continue, please.
Apply a scientific rule, a rationale of weighing benefits and harms. Justice overweight consent in financial in all contracting. Expand the meaning and scope of finance. Integrate finance activities with wealth creating activities. Stick always to the real economy. Eliminate all non-productive activities. Establish fairness. Earning by ownership. Can lean on partners. Integrate market discipline. More performance. More deposits. Do not pull out resources from the real market. Rather send them back to the real market. Implant a standard of hard earning in finance. No easy buck by just clicking. It is necessarily should be developmental. Bear ownership risk. If you earn, you should bear risk. Environment and society friendly, and a new detailed understanding and mapping of risk each. Then
I want to ask something. Is at a point 14. Can you back to 14.14?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hard earning. What do you mean by this?
This is what it means. It means you earn by owning, you earn by hard work. You don't earn by simply clicking on the computer. That's the point. You don't earn by speculation. Take day trading, for instance. Day trading, what does it do? I mean, you start with cash in the morning and you end with cash in the evening, and you are trading all time. That is purely speculation. You didn't do anything that benefit any human being. You did nothing really. You are as you are playing poker with another person. What did you do? What did you add to life? You added nothing. Whereas in Islam, in reality, in the Islamic religion, you should earn by really producing something in the society. But why the numbers now jump from 13 to 19? Go to the one before it.
Prof, if I get an apartment from my father, like my father's, and get benefits from it, ijara, lease it, I get benefits without anything, without doing anything, with easy.
No, you don't get without anything. You get
It
by
gets from the
assigning
ownership.
property, by assigning the property to give benefit to somebody else.
No,
Isn't
not
by that?
not hard.
You got to return by assigning your property to give to generate benefit to some person.
But
So
the
what do
meaning
you
of
mean by
hard,
nothing? This
but
is something.
not, it's
You
not,
are
it's easy.
producing. You are producing benefit.
It's easy, not hard. That's what I mean.
No,
easy,
it's not.
hard.
This is part of the hard, brother. When you assign your property to other people to get benefit from it, this is part of the hard work, the work in reality, in the real world. That is the meaning of hard work, real work. It's not work with your hand, dig dirt from the land. I cannot work. I cannot do that kind of work. I can teach you, but I cannot dig the land to extract dirt from it and put it some other place. But I do hard work here. Okay, even
Sure.
if
Professor,
I
I
do
guess,
it with
yes.
my mouth and my mind only. Okay.
I guess with the hard work, it
Al-Qasim
was
Habibullah.
What's that? Say it again.
Can we say Al-Qasim Habibullah?
يعني in a sense yes, but الكاسب is not in the sense that or you earn without providing a benefit to humanity. You earn by simply clicking, like you are around the table that has the grain on it and nothing changed, and somebody has more money and somebody has less money at the end of the day. That is speculation.
Professor, I have a question here.
Yes.
Isn't this the role of the secondary market? It's all about clicking. So there is no real value addition, even if you are buying and selling shares in the secondary market.
No, I don't agree with you at all, because the secondary market is needed, because some people may find better opportunity from one commitment to another. So you really need a secondary market, but you need a secondary market for this objective only. In other words, for the objective, if I find a better idea or better project, that I liquidate this and go to the other. And this is why all people of wisdom all over the world call that secondary market should be open 2 hours a week, for instance. You don't need all this 24/7. Always you can trade from Honolulu to Los Angeles 24 hours a week. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week also. No, that's not needed. That is speculative really, and that encourages speculation. But you need a secondary market to be a little for those people who want to liquidate, those people who change their investment or whatever. There is always a room open for them. That is necessary part of life, but it is not necessary to go speculative. And this is why one of the tools that are suggested by every wisdom, that we need to limit accessibility to market. So market should open 2 hours a week. That's enough. Why do you need more than that? Okay, continue, please.
So, but it should not be a profit making or a means of earning just by trading shares in the secondary market.
I mean, if you bought it at 10 and when you sold it because of you need cash, because of another opportunity, or because of consumption, you want to marry your daughter, and you guys in India, you have to pay dowry to the husband. So you want to marry your daughter and pay the husband that dowry, you liquidate your shares. If you want to liquidate, and it happened, the price when you liquidate is 15, not 10. Is that haram? No, definitely not. So you need that market, but you need it just to be reasonable. Continue, please. Where are, again, you jumped 13 to 19?
There is some, my apologies, sir, there is some numbering mistake.
Okay, now go to the previous one. Here you have 19. Then you should start 20. A new detail and okay.
20, 21, 22. There's some mistake in
Okay.
number. Bring the financial sector back to basic function. Banking activities, not trading activities. Redefine finance, financial intermediation in finance sector, consistent with human nature and nature of things. In the last point with your
nature of things.
Things. Sorry.
Of, not if.
Of things. And the last point, with your permission, I want to add, do not sell the risk as it is not saleable, by Professor Monzer Kahf.
Yeah, and correct the numbers. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, khalas?
These okay. 2-3 slides, I want to go through it.
Yeah, go ahead. Continue,
quickly.
please.
Universal finance for all humanity. President of the European Central Bank, Jean-Claude Trichet, in 2009 calls for a paradigm change for the global financial system. With globalized market, a global system of moral and ethical values needs to be in place to restore trust in financial market. The French writer Jacques Austry says in his book, Islam and Economic Development, Islam is the system of applied life and high ideal ethics together. And these two aspects are interconnected and never separated. And from here, it can be said that Muslims do not accept a secular economy, and the economy that derives its power from the inspiration of the Quran becomes by necessity a moral economy. The essential principles of Islamic finance are not suitable only to the Muslims. They are suitable to all and many worldly beliefs as well. Therefore, the advancement of these universal values serves the common goal of men and women as well as policymakers worldwide to reform financial systems for humanity's betterment. In Islamic finance, the practitioners and clients need not to be Muslims, but they must accept the ethical and moral prohibitions underscored by values emphasized in Islamic teachings founded on the Quran, the Hadith, the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ, and interpretation by Islamic scholars.
Okay, remove the word prohibitions and call it, put instead of it values. The ethical and moral values. Why you guys always think negative? Okay.
Islamic finance is a paradigm for real economy, humanistic finance with human dignity, developmental vision, and realistic approach. Why do we need Islamic finance? Because it is more resilient than conventional finance to crisis, proven in 2008-2010 crisis of the subprime loan in the West. It affected the whole world. All societies need it because it is developmental by its nature, managing changes in a sustainable way, promoting innovation in human life, but not in its timeless principles. Muslims need it for additional reasons, pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by earning through halal ways and protecting of deen, posterity, and property. It's all.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. You did a good job, but please make all these corrections and resend it again.
Thank you.
I tell you what, send it to me first, and then after I approve of it, you send it to everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
You have 48 hours to complete that.
Okay, sir. Okay, inshallah, I'll send it before.
And that clouds.
48 hours to send it. Who are talking now? We have some young boys or girls with us. Okay, thank you. Let's take a little break, 10 minutes only then, not 15 minutes. We don't have any prayer now at this time, unless you want to pray duha. Go ahead and pray duha if you want. Okay, so we'll come back at 10 minutes to discuss the paper of Muhammad Hassan Abbas. طيب يلا السلام عليكم. I will keep the recorder, but I will stop the microphone and the photo.
Water inside it.
Professor, I have a question. Should I keep it for the later after the break?
I think so later.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
عليكم السلام.
وعليكم السلام.
طيب أهلا
وعليكم
وسهلا.
السلام ورحمة الله.
I see Bara Dukhan. You are with us, Bara Dukhan? Bara? Welcome. Is it? Are you with us,
السلام
Bara
عليكم.
Dukhan?
نعم دكتور.
أهلا وعليكم السلام. أهلا وسهلا. كيف
حياكم
بقى
الله.
دخلت؟ هات قل لي. أنا I did not add you.
جزاكم الله خير، بعتوا لنا الرابط. الله يبارك فيك.
اجتك رابط يعني. أيوه.
نعم.
طيب بارك الله فيك.
الله يبارك فيكم
I'm
دكتور.
glad you are with us anyway.
ما لا يمكن أن نفوت هذه الفرصة يا دكتور.
طيب أهلا وسهلا.
جزاكم الله خير.
طيب يعني براء, for those who don't know him, was one of the writers of the book, and he's now working on his dissertation. He's يعني finished his exams and everything more than a year, maybe 2 years ago. And now he's working on his dissertation. So he's one of the writers also of the book. أهلا وسهلا.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much.
طيب يا محمد حسن عباس.
Yes, bro.
Go ahead. يعني Abbas is the uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but the meaning of the word is not that. يعني there is another companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His name is Sarsur. So do you want to name your son Sarsur? Sarsur, cockroach. His name is Jundub. Jundub means Sarsur. This is the famous companion Abu Dharr al-Ghifari. But the names the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam selected were always beautiful name, has beautiful meaning. Hassan, Hussein, and then one his name was difficulty, Hazan. So he told him, but you are Sahel, not Hazan.
And
Easy.
Qasim also.
Yeah.
Qasim Abdullah.
Yeah. Yani these, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam always preferred the good names. So meaning names that have good meaning. So don't name your children Abbas or Jundub or that. Yani you don't need this. Why? Or Fahd also.
Oh, Huraira.
Yeah, Abu Huraira is يعني kind of a title that came again from having a cat around him all the time. So it's يعني kind of maybe when he was young was a name of teasing, but then it became famous for him. But it's not really يعني that good name anyway. أبو قطة نسميك أبو قطة أبو قطة. علاء, do you like to be Abu Qatta? Okay, go ahead, yeah, Muhammad Hassan.
Today we have article of Ahmed Asute searching for the nexus between money deposits, loan financing in Malaysia and Turkey, Islamic and conventional bank.
I'm sorry, but I can't hear anything.
Raise your voice,
Abbas. Come closer to the microphone, yeah, Muhammad Hassan.
Now it's clear, bro.
It's clear now? Better. Afaf, do you hear better now?
Yes, Professor.
طيب, go ahead.
So this is a summary. The author relates to the casual relationships in bank money creation and money supply by using monthly data sets covering the period between 2007 to 2013 for Islamic and conventional banks in Malaysia and Turkey. Further, it employs the Granger causality method. This method is used for statistical concept of causality that is based on prediction. So in this study, author seeks to find the influence of one bank money and money supply on financing loans in both Islamic and conventional banks in these mentioned countries, Malaysia and Turkey. Although according to the author, this study is not sufficient to determine the transfer transfer channel alone. The commission of the result from two banking system in both countries offers an opportunity to understand the direction of causality in the bank money creation, as well as informing the efficiency and functionality of the loan or financing and monetary channels in both banking system. So according to the author, it is also noted that to attain the desired outcomes of the monetary policy in the short and long terms, it is necessary to possess a better understanding of how the how the bank money is generated and how the monetary transfer channels work in an economy. These two elements are important matters that should be considered in the designation of the monetary policies in an economy. A sound relationship between at author stated that in an economy, a sound relationship between deposits and loans is crucial for the effective funding of the real sector. It's clear. So these are the variables used by the author in the article, like commercial bank deposits, Islamic bank deposits, CBL commercial bank loans, IBL Islamic banks loan financing, and M3 money supply. As we can see the money three M3. The define let's go for the findings. The findings of the study regarding the causality between money supply and the deposits and loans. The results show that the money supply has an impact on the both banking systems in both countries. About the conventional banks in both countries, the direction of causality is different in the both countries. The direction of causality is different in both countries. In Malaysia, causality is determined from loans to deposit, whereas the direction of causality from deposits to loan in Turkish conventional banking. On the other side, the Islamic banks has same direction of causality in both countries from bank deposit to financing, as we can see in the below figure. You can see the arrows. So in addition, the causality is determined from money supply to loans and deposit in both countries. The impact of money supply on loan is same for the conventional banks for both countries. It means that the loan channel works over conventional banks. Similarly, the results demonstrate that the causal relationship between the deposits and money supply is only present in Turkey. For the Islamic banks with below figure, you can see that for Malaysia, the direction of causality found for conventional banking is seen to be valid for Islamic bank financing, yet the direction of the causality is in the opposite direction for Turkey. These results indicate the probability of having the financing channel working for Malaysia over Islamic banks is higher than that of the same channel not to be working over Islamic banking Turkey. Finally, depending on the magnitude of the differences of the potential reactions, the relative size of Islamic banking in the country, this may affect the efficiency of the monetary policy. These results suggest that the credit channel may only operate over commercial banking in both countries, and that is also only works over Islamic banking in Asia. So these are two critical points. As you can see, the author has taken bank deposits and the money supply, and he has checked the test the causality. As we in our opinion, like bank deposits are part of money supply, especially when author is taking M3, as you can see, which includes M2 plus long-term deposits, which cover all bank deposits. It's not a good good rationale. So loans financing as well for Islamic banks create deposits. It's obvious, like saving and current deposits. If so, how can causality take opposite direction in 3 or 4 cases? This is also not a rational. Like we have studied in Islamic economics, the legal cash reserves is the percentage computed by the central bank from total deposit with commercial banks. There is an inverse link between the legal cash reserves ratio and money production, as a drop legal cash reserves lead to rise in money production. So this was the summary of the.
Okay, and I think we can take, but before that, let's take the Hassan Mahfouz. You have a question? Do you still have a question, or you forgot it?
Yes, I have a question.
Please, go
Professor,
ahead first.
you talked about the tolerance level in the lecture that it is 30% or 33 or 20%. I didn't understand how it was calculated. You said this is based on experience. So can you please explain again how that percentage is calculated?
Okay. We took or they took the 6,000 shares that are listed in the market. And of course, the Dow Jones is a good representation of them. Although it is only 30 selected, 30, but and historically it has proven that it is a good representation of them. Now, of course, they eliminated first the sectors that are not permissible, like banking, insurance companies, real estate companies, all of them, because all of them are like banks and very much interest ridden. They removed all the sectors whose main line of business is not permissible, and then they started applying on the others, taking those that have big leverage or big, say, start with 50%. Anything that is 50% leverage or have more than 50% or 50% or more that of assets that may be liquid and used or quasi-liquid and used for earning interest. Removed that, and then they found that okay, you have a selection of 2,000 companies. Then they reduced it, kept reducing it, or start vice versa from, let's take only companies that have 10% leverage and 10% assets that are that may be used for earning haram. They found that did not come to a behavior. These that they ran Dow Jones for them. They found that did not come to a behavior similar to the Dow Jones. They raised it and raised it, and of course, the 1/3 is an idea that comes from any sheikh. When you tell him, oh, they'll mention to you 1/3 all the time, because the 1/3 is mentioned in the hadith. So when they applied the 1/3, they found that it gives a behavior similar to the Dow Jones conventional behavior. And that is where they said, we take this Dow Jones and we take the 5% experimentally. The AWOFI, without any experiment, they said we take only 30%, just haphazard. Yani, someone said 30%, so they went for 30% instead of 1/3. When a study was done by this Nazar, and it is a published study, not in the main journal, but in one of the journals that are recognized, I think in the Malaysian journal maybe or something. It was published, and he found that 20% will achieve the same objective. That is a behavior of the index similar to the general index. The implication or the meaning of this kind of behavior, of this similarity, that a Muslim has same way or same kind of liberty or of maneuvering between one sector and the other, and one company and the other. So this is the way it was calculated. We tried that in Qatar, and it is published paper in the Journal of King Abdulaziz University. The result was that we really don't need any of these, because you have enough. You have zero tolerance will give you the same kind of freedom of selection and maneuvering. Okay. The one who raises his hand, please go ahead.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
Professor, just one follow-up on that one.
Okay, continue, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the AOFI universalized it to all countries without really looking at the Dow Jones rationale.
That's a mistake of AWOFI. AWOFI is wrong in that.
Did you talk to them? Did you advise them to revise this or something?
I remember talking to one of them, probably the General Secretary who resigned, Hamid Al-Mira, but he resigned anyway. No, I didn't talk to others, but I did talk to some. I didn't talk to others, no. Okay. But absolutely, they are wrong in that.
Okay,
and
thank
also, there is a sheikh in Qatar who published something like that, and he is wrong in that. I mean, people sometimes say something without thinking of it. Yani, that happens, unfortunately. Okay. Continue. The other question? We have another question.
I want to add something about this paper. Why do we need to examine the relationship between deposit and loans? The central bank put a percent from when you want to grant loan, you must have a percent of your deposit. So there are absolutely relationship between the two concepts. Why do we need to examine them?
You are right, yeah, Sami. I argued with Muhammad Hassan Abbas that really this paper, and we both agree on it, that really this paper has no substance, has no issue, and it should have not been written. It is a mistake to write this kind of paper for more than one reason. One, that the relationship between receivables and deposits for Islamic Bank and loans and deposits for conventional bank, this percentage is a policy tool that is imposed by the central bank all the time. So central banks, except in America, impose that relationship. They tell them that you cannot give loans more than certain percentage, 90%, 80%, and they put it in that range for conventional banks and for Islamic banks. And they force them, then whatever you have liquidity, then deposit it with our bank, with the central bank. So they require from them really more liquidity that is, especially in smaller countries or countries that have foreign exchange difficulty. Even if it is big, yani, like Nigeria also imposes that. America doesn't do that.
So, Prof, the question should be that is the percent adequate for the Islamic bank as a conventional bank? This is more accurate.
Okay, so the research topic is not really appropriate. This is one point, that this is a policy tool, and you cannot then take the policy tool as a standard. Because it's already determined, that relationship. The causality, again, is not, this is the second point, causality is not explained rationally. Why should the causality between, why should the causality be from deposits to financing, or to receivables, or to loans? Why should it be different from an Islamic and between an Islamic and conventional bank? There is no reason for different causality, because in both we take deposits and then we give loans, and the causality, and then whatever we give loans will come back as deposits. So the causality is there's no rational explanation of the mathematical result. And a mathematical result that is not rationally explained is useless, is not really an acceptable result, even if the mathematics gives it. This is number two. Number three, again, the M3 includes all deposits in banks. So this is, you are talking about some 90% or 94 or 5% of the total quantity of money in the market. These are the deposit in the bank. Is it right to think of a causality between money supply and deposits. When you take money supply as M3, that includes all deposit. It is a major ingredient of it, and definitely it must be the major element in it. So how come you talk about causality between them? It's the rationale of the paper is extremely weak, and I wouldn't really, if it comes to me, I wouldn't accept to publish it, definitely. Okay?
Yeah,
Shah.
even Professor, I don't even understand what is the paper about. I mean, what are we trying to establish with this causality? What is the purpose of the paper?
Well, I would say the ultimate purpose of the paper would be by Muhammad, what's his name?
Asutai.
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 By Muhammad Asutai. The objective of it, that banks play with the quantity of money, and that is wrong. The banks should not be able to affect the quantities of money. This is what he wanted to say, but he couldn't say it in this paper. But that's his objective anyway. I wouldn't buy that. Go ahead, Shah. What do you want?
Yeah, it was the same observation. I studied it and then I couldn't get any sense. So that was I was just
So
talking
don't take it as your PhD dissertation, definitely.
Okay. And one other thing, on a lighter note, one of my professor from Palestine who taught me fiqh in Islamic University, Islamabad, he is now in Marmara University. His name is Muhammad Akram Ghurrab. So Ghurrab is, I think, crow.
But that's ghurab, not ghurrab, not with the ghurrab is from stranger. It's derived is from the word stranger. But I don't know, ask Ala ad-Din. Ala ad-Din may knows this family name. Ghurab, yes, I know family name as ghurab. And ghurab is, yes, that bird that nobody likes.
I think it's gharib.
From gharib, yeah. Ghurab is from gharib. But ghurab is different. Ghurab is the bird that in our university is full of it. Usually people don't eat it, but I really like, if you can catch me 2 of these ghurab and have them cleaned, I like to taste it.
Yeah, we asked that professor and he said it is a sort of a bird. So it means that this
No, the bird is ghurab without shadda, not ghurab. Ghurab, yes. And there is a family name, I know more than one person with a family name ghurab. It exists, yeah.
It's not
and family
takhallus.
names have always historical reasons.
Okay. Thank you,
sir. Brother Fahad needs to catch up 2 birds now for you.
Yeah, Fahad, yeah. Shah Fahad, catch 2 birds for me from the university, the big ones, and clean them and I'll eat them together.
No, these ghurab are not halal, sir.
Me, who said not halal? Where did you discover that? And the Quran in 2 or 3 places says only 4 things are haram. The dead animal, or إلا أن يكون ميتة أو دما مسفوحا, blood that is split. When you slaughter, or لحم خنزير, from pork that is eatable, that people eat, or anything that is slaughtered in the name of other than God. Even if you say in the name of Muhammad, or in the name of Jesus, or in the name of Jamal Abdel Nasser, or in the name of the Pope, that is not permissible.
Okay, sir. Then I'll invite all my classmates for hunting and then barbecue birds in ICU.
Well, catch us a few, leave your classmates, only you and me. Catch us a few birds of these and I will eat them together, with you. But okay, need to be caught and then slaughtered and cleaned.
Okay, sir. But these are not makruh also.
No, there is nothing makruh in that. Come on.
Okay.
No, they eat.
The Quran clearly says, I do not find anything prohibited except these 4. Real,
Professor, in
more than one
Turkey,
occasion.
in Turkey, they're mostly because of the Hanafi Mazhab. They say, they claim at least, actually, that some sea products, they're makruh or whatever. I mean, most of them they don't consume it. I don't know.
Yeah, I
whether
know.
they have.
They have that. Sea and birds and all. Yeah, Hanafi is the most sophisticated madhab in matters of eating.
Yeah, we don't eat parrots, crows, etc.
Well,
don't use
then take it Maliki. Maliki is the easiest one. Even in the Maliki, they say you can eat dog and cats.
And you know, we
Even domestic
don't
dogs
switch
and
madhab
domestic
in
cats.
our countries. You know, we stick to the one madhab.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Thank
take
you,
it
sir.
Maliki. Go apply the Maliki school. Whenever anybody asks me, I tell him I'm Maliki, so he doesn't understand what am I talking about.
The rats and cats and all are.
Yes, all these are edible in the Maliki school. Okay. Any other question? طيب بارك الله فيكم.
Thank you, sir.
Next
Assalamu
week,
alaikum.
inshallah, is going to be inshallah in person. Now it is still snowing.
Yeah,
I
it is
think,
snowing.
Professor, this format is very good if we can have online the rest of the semester.
No, we
Also.
are not going to have it for the rest of the semester. I
I
like to
would be
see
very
you
happy
and
for that, but
have direct interaction, and then I want to completely convert Mateen and Hassan, especially. Okay.
Okay, Sheikh.
thinking
Hey,
out of the box.
barakallah fikum.
Barakallahu fikum.
مع
Thank
السلامة.
you, sir.
جزاك الله
Assalamu
خير.
alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
السلام. Stop recorder first. Okay, here.